You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, former U.S. Air Force pilot and retired Delta Airlines captain. And joining me from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire,
retired professional dog photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot. Okay. Retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hello there, Captain Jeff and everybody. Sorry for my voice this week. APG 669 this week. Well, November 669 was the registration of a Lodestar bought from the authorities in the Bahamas after having been seized because it was used for drug smuggling flights. The aircraft was flown to Fort Lauderdale and parked at the Hub Aviation ramp. Now, incensed by its illegal activities, a passing Douglas DC-8, I made that last bit up, a passing Douglas DC-8 blew it into some fuel system piping, which destroyed it. Ha ha ha, that'll teach it. Naughty aeroplane.
So, I don't know who this is. I introduced Captain Nick, but this voice doesn't sound right at all. Are you okay, sir?
No, I'll explain more in getting to know you if I survive that long.
Okay. Very good. Well, great to have you, sir, and interesting about the Lockheed Lodestar. Let's see. We also have from the Northwoods of the Atlanta suburbs, race car driver, chef, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot with an interest in anything with enough horsepower to kill him. It's A.J. Schramm, or Alpha Juliet.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, Nick, Liz, good to see you guys. Had a interesting week, but glad to be here.
Can't wait to hear all about it. All right. And also, last but not least, from her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast. There we go. Spreadsheet master and our producer. It's Liz Piper.
Hi, everybody. I'm feeling very enthusiastic today. I'm an enthusiast.
Yes, you are.
Wow.
Very enthusiastic. Yeah.
Okay.
Must be the time of the day.
I guess.
And the drugs.
Yes, they help.
You've been having Lodestars fly in.
Yes, I have. Have a good show, gentlemen.
Cheers,
Thanks, Liz.
Stand by for news.
From Fox 5 Atlanta. The first item in our news is severe storms force evacuation of the Atlanta Airport Control Tower, disrupting holiday travel. Friday night storms. This is about a week ago, I think now.
Well, that was last Friday, yeah.
Yeah,
a week ago.
So it's been a while. Friday night storms caused headaches for thousands of travelers at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Hundreds of flights were delayed or canceled after a ground stop went into effect earlier in the day. Air traffic controllers had to evacuate the tower at the height of the intense storm. And the storm triggered flash flood warnings in parts of of Metro Atlanta. Yep, I think AJ and I received those warnings and alerts for flash flooding. It was actually quite a torrential downpour, kind of a storm that hit us. I mean, we're used to afternoon thunderstorms in the summertime in Atlanta, but this was especially, wet and stormy.
It was strangely enough, I didn't get a lot of the rain. I got actually very little rain, but I got all of the light show and all of the thunder, and I think you could hear it on the background of our mic. So this is the same storm that was happening, like you said, during the the show
is it?
last
Okay.
week.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
We were recording at the time that some of this was happening. Yeah, it's interesting because, as you said, AJ, a lot of the storm activity was to the north of where AJ and I are, and also to the south, down near the airport. So, kind of, we were in the mostly dry zone there. But
There's a second article there, Jeff, too.
Okay. Another article from Yahoo.com regarding the cancellation. So Delta had to cancel quite a few flights, and took them a little bit of time to recover from that. The thing I was trying to find, wasn't there some report about hail, like pretty, big
Well, they had
hail.
to do a lot of inspections of their planes.
Yeah, they had to do a bunch of inspections, like 100 and some odd airplanes had to be inspected for hail damage. And that's
it's in that bit there. The hail led to required inspections for over 100 aircraft, which our teams completed by Saturday morning.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I see that now.
And then they interviewed retired Captain Jeff Nielsen, who said his comment on this was, "I'm glad I'm not flying anymore."
That's right. That is my comment. Yeah. And you'd think that hail, I mean, it's the reason why it's a big deal is because a lot of the parts of the airplanes, especially the high-tailed, the T-tailed airplanes, like what I used to fly mostly, are really up high. And if you have hail and hail damage, it's very difficult to spot that because standing on the ground looking up, you see the bottom side of the horizontal tailplane, but you can't see the top of it. And so a lot of times for those types of airplanes, if you suspect hail damage, you need to get one of we call them cherry pickers, but what's the generic term for those kind of vehicles that...
Scissor lift.
Scissor lift?
Scissor lift. That's an option.
Yeah, like a thing that goes like up really high.
We're
so
here
people...
in the South.
Yeah, we'll just call them a cherry picker.
Cherry picker. Or a peach picker in Georgia.
Peach picker, yeah, there you go. Peach picker. Or pecan picker. So it causes a lot of consternation trying to do the inspections for hail damage on a lot of airplanes. So.
Now because you guys hold the world record for the largest ever hailstone recorded. It landed near Vivian in South Dakota in 2010, was 8 inches in diameter, had a circumference of 18.5 inches, and weighed nigh on 2 pounds. So if one of those wallops your airplane, having fallen a significant distance, I think it's probably going to go straight through it.
It's a good thing it didn't hit Vivian, because she would have been definitely killed.
Late Vivian.
Yeah, indeed.
Posthumous record.
Mind you, those Dakota people, they're pretty hardy. Mine just shrugged it off.
Yeah, my fellow Dakotans.
Yeah.
That's why there's only like
Jeff's
82 of them.
Yeah, there are not a lot of them, as hailstones have taken their toll over the years. Okay. Moving along. Okay. Next item is an update.
Dan says there's another name. It's called a man lift. Yeah.
Oh, Dan in our Dan's a new audience member. Welcome, Dan, to our live recording. He says that maybe instead of a cherry picker, called a man lift. Yeah, because you do lift a man in the little.
Well, hang on a minute. Shouldn't it be a person lift?
It should be a person lift.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here
Dan,
we go.
Yeah. Come on. Person
with the
cancel Dan
program
his
down.
first ever live recording. This is unfortunate.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure now that Dan will never ever come back again.
Tell Dan we love him.
We love you,
Mission
Dan.
accomplished.
Okay. Let's move to this update from the Aviation Herald on the Air India Flight 171 crash on the 29th of June, so almost a week ago. Not a lot been happening there. They've been very quiet. But on the 29th of June, the Civil Aviation Minister in India said it has never happened that both engines shut down together. Investigators are analyzing the black boxes from every angle, including engine issues, fuel supply problems, or something else, including sabotage. A preliminary report is to be expected in 3 months. India has accepted the proposal from ICAO for an ICAO observer into the accident investigation. The observer will not have investigative authority, but will provide technical input and ensure that global best practices are being followed. This enhances transparency and reinforces India's adherence to international standards. So that's good to hear. They are, and that kind of gives you a little hint, right? They're kind of focusing on what we've kind of thought should be the focus is, the engines losing all power or a majority of their power, and why? Why did that happen?
I don't know where the minister is getting his information because, of course, I only have to think back to BA Flight 85, is it? 38. BA Flight 38. It was a
At Heathrow,
777
right?
that lost both engines, on finals at Heathrow. So, yes, it has happened. I'm sorry to correct you.
It's never happened in India.
Yeah, but he didn't say that, but yeah, okay, fair enough.
Right
Or
there.
it's never happened on that plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
that's
never
what he
happened on
meant.
that plane with that airline in India.
In that flight.
With that flight.
Indeed.
So many caveats. So
Yeah,
many.
yeah. But I agree, Captain Nick. When I read that, I'm thinking, well,
Not so,
Yeah, I'm
not
not
so
so sure
fast
about
there,
that.
Mr. Minister.
Now, I have a question that we haven't really talked as much about, but the way that all this is being handled is interesting because we have incidents all over the world, and it's very common for ICAO, the U.S., Britain, a lot of these very developed and experienced investigators or investigative units and things to go in and help with these things. And India is kind of pushing back pretty hard and saying, no, we're going to do this ourselves. I read an article somewhere, and I'd have to dig up to find the link to it, but it said basically this is the first time ICAO's ever had to ask to be involved. They've been asked plenty of times, but ICAO had to say, no, really, we want to have somebody in there.
The laws that everyone agrees to worldwide say that if you've got a passenger that came from your country involved in it, you're allowed to participate, or at least be there to observe the country's own accident investigators. So we've got a team from the UK Air Accident Investigation Board. And, of course, the manufacturer, Boeing, will have a team out there. But you're right, India's Accident Investigation Board have overall authority. So I don't know. I'm surprised we haven't had a few leaks, but I agree 100%. I think there's a real political backwash
Sensitivity.
for, sensitivity, as Liz just prompts me, regarding this. India is a country with a great deal of pride, and I think they want to make sure that they get it absolutely right in case they find that there's actually perhaps a problem with their aviation industry or that airline, because after all, it is their state carrier.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, that's all interesting, and I can't wait in these next few months for them to gather the information to produce a preliminary report. It's going to be
October,
interesting.
they're saying, I guess.
By October, then, okay, if we're doing our math correctly and looking at our calendars. So,
I sometimes wonder whether it's a bit like removing a sticky plaster from your arm that's covering a wound. Is it better to rip it off and have all that pain in one go, or is it better to tease it off and make that pain last a lot longer? So I don't know. India, I suspect, or let's pull it gently and spread the news out. But most countries, they just get it out there and say, right, the quicker we get out there, the quicker it'll be forgotten about.
Yeah. But again, then they have to also be very, very careful about making sure they get whatever they put out there is correct, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Now, I like the way the states do it. They just release a bunch of facts initially so that, you can put to bed a lot of rubbish theories. And then the whole blown thing comes out, quite a few months later once they've got it all sorted.
Right. And that seems to be kind of, in my opinion, a change here in the States recently in recent crashes and investigations, releasing a lot of that information almost immediately. Whereas and it might have something to do with the way we communicate now in our time is so everything is so like right away, like instant gratification kind of thing. Whereas in the past, everybody was kind of attuned to waiting for news to come out and to be vetted properly and everything else. And I think that might be why now, that's changed. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think you're right, Jeff. With the social media being able to produce information that everyone consumes all the time incredibly quickly, 24 hours a day, I think it's right to try and get information out there just to stop any false rumors gaining traction, because if you're just going to put the facts out there, then a lot of this stuff will just, it can't be that, so I'll shut up.
That was particularly important around the Toronto crash thing. Remember that those rumors came out really quickly about the experience of those two pilots and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So the NTSB put their preliminary out really fast to squelch that.
We live in a world of social media, sadly, but just the way it is.
Well, some people would say it's good to share because you can't conceal things nearly so much.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword. You're right. There are good things and bad things about it, I guess. Okay. Let's continue with this tragedy in Brazil. This from foxnews.com. I do have a video, by the way, a YouTube video, but we decided that we probably shouldn't play it because it's pretty... it's kind of horrifying to watch this occur, and so I'll have a link to it in the show notes for you if you want to watch. But just be advised that it's kind of hard to watch, I think. Anyway, this involves a hot air balloon in Brazil carrying 21 people caught fire. How long ago was it? A couple of weeks ago, I guess. Saturday morning crashed, killing at least 8 people. Santa Catarina's military fire brigade said the crash happened in Santa Catarina, a state in Brazil's south, after the fire started in the basket, forcing the pilot to attempt to land. Video shared on social media shows black smoke billowing over the deflated balloon as it hurtles toward the ground in a wooded area near the town of Praia Grande, which is popular for hot air ballooning. But believe it or not, there were survivors. 13 survivors, including the pilot, were taken to hospitals with unknown injuries. The survivors managed to live by jumping out of the balloon when the fire first began. The balloon at first began to rise again once some of the passengers had jumped out. These people ended up dying. 4 charred, and another 4 jumped out of the balloon when it was falling. So some of the people that did jump out of the balloon survived, some didn't. Okay, let's see. Anything else really? The police force chief, the quote from him says, "It hurts the soul." Yeah, definitely. Costing $100 per person. The ride in the balloon was expected to be 45 minutes long and reach 3,280 feet. That's kind of specific, isn't it? Yeah, really. That must be like a meters kind of trends or conversion. It's not clear what height the balloon was at when it started to fall. Despite all the necessary precautions and the efforts of our pilot, who has extensive experience and followed all recommended procedures in an attempt to save everyone on board the balloon, we are suffering from the pain caused by the tragedy, the hot air balloon company Sobrevoar said in a statement. Where's Steph? She's the one that does. Well, I don't know. AJ, do you speak Spanish?
No, but I think that would be Portuguese, actually.
Oh, yeah. Shoot. I did it again.
Jeff, that was 1,000 meters. You were correct.
1,000 meters. Okay, thank you. So Liz looked it up. So that 3,280 feet equates to 1,000 meters. So that makes more sense. Nice, even altitude in meters. So And around 25 to 30 hot air balloon trips leave daily from the area. Man, that's a lot of activity. Yeah.
And that's a lot of people in a hot air balloon. 21 people? That seems...
I thought so too.
I don't know. I'm not a balloonist.
It's pretty
but that's
big
a
balloon.
lot.
Yeah.
Big,
but I mean,
big basket.
The basket, yeah, is sizable. I mean, obviously accommodates those people. But I'm worried that the maintenance perhaps on the burner system, there's obviously a technical error with the burner. Otherwise, it wouldn't have caught light and set light to the balloon. That sounds pretty basic, but it's so concerning that a number of passengers, including the pilot, abandoned the aircraft when they were close enough to the ground to survive. But other people probably not quite as brave to risk the fall, stayed in it. And once all the weight of those people had gone from the basket, the balloon, of course, is going to climb. And as it climbs, it becomes less and less likely that anyone is going to survive. Really tragic. I don't know what the pilot might have been able to do to encourage more people to abandon when they did. He certainly felt it was the thing for him to do, the captain of the vessel, as it were, to jump out. But not everyone followed him. So that's just pretty awful.
It's really hard to know how we as a human being is going to react, or we are going to react in a situation like that. I mean, I can't. I mean, I try to put myself into that scenario. Like, I'm the captain of this balloon. I have to stay. I have to be the last one. But if fire is like licking at your back and you're like burning to death, I don't know how you control the urge not to leap from the balloon and try to save yourself.
No, I agree, Jeff. I agree. A decision none of us would like to be put into, a decision scenario. Awful.
Yeah. All right. Well, sad. I'm hoping they'll figure out what happened there and they'll fix whatever went wrong on future flights. iHaul Boxes says, are balloons subject to the same 90-second evacuation rules? I don't know.
I doubt
like
it
certification for, yeah, I don't think so.
No, I don't think there's any approved evacuation system for a balloon. I mean, it's not like they have any way of evacuating.
You're limited in options.
Yeah. I mean, even when the damn things land, you're quite likely to have the whole thing tip over and you're going to be thrown out anyway, because that happens quite regularly during the landing. So, no, I think it's all a bit hit and miss, I'm afraid.
Speaking of preliminary reports, we're going to go to this one on the crash in San Diego on the 22nd of May. Just a reminder, so we're all up to speed. This involved a Cessna Citation jet, S-550, November 666 Delta Sierra, was destroyed when it was involved in an accident near San Diego, California. The pilot, 5 passengers were fatally injured. 8 people on the ground received minor injuries. The airplane was operated as a Part 91 personal flight. The airplane departed Teterboro in New Jersey on May 21st, about 23:09 Eastern Daylight Time, so just before midnight, arrived at Colonel James Jabara Airport in Wichita, Kansas, about 1:48 Central Daylight Time. The airplane was refueled with 548 gallons of Jet A before departing about 2:36 in the morning, and then with the destination of Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport in San Diego, California. Mike Yankee Fox is a tower-controlled airport between the hours of 7 o'clock and 1800 and operates as an uncontrolled airport during the remaining hours of the day. As the airplane neared Mike Yankee Foxtrot, the pilot checked in on frequency with Southern California Terminal Radar Approach Control, the Southern California TRACON, and let's see, they were at 17,000 feet. The controller informed the pilot that the Automated Surface Observing System, ASOS, at MYF was out of service, and the pilot acknowledged that he was aware of that. The controller asked the pilot what approach he would like to fly, and the pilot responded he would like to fly the RNAV, GPS Instrument Approach to runway 28 right. The pilot did not specify whether he would fly the Localizer Performance with Vertical Guidance, the LPV approach, or the Lateral Navigation, the LNAV approach. The pilot was then cleared directly to the Nesty approach fix, instructed to descend to 9,000 feet. The pilot subsequently asked the controller if they could assist in determining the weather conditions, and the controller provided the pilot with weather conditions at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, about 4 miles north of MYF, which was briefed as wind calm, 1/2 mile visibility, and an indefinite 200-foot ceiling. The pilot then discussed alternate airport weather conditions with the controller in the event he had to perform a miss. He stated that he would notify SoCal Tracon of his selection of an alternate, but did not do so during the remainder of the flight. When the airplane was about 10 miles northeast of Nesty, the controller asked the pilot if he was going to make, he said, "Are you going to make your descent?" And he offered him vectors to the south, but the pilot replied, "I think we'll be all right." The airplane was about 8,000 feet, 270 knots ground speed at that time. The controller informed the pilot that he was 5 miles from Nesty, instructed them to cross Nesty at 3,800 feet or above, and he was cleared the RNAV approach. Let's see, ADS-B data showed the airplane subsequently turned a beam Nesty about 3,750 feet MSL, ground speed 200. The airplane continued to slow and descend as it crossed Penny, P-E-N-Y-Y, the final approach fix. They were about an altitude of 2,450 MSL, ground speed about 175. Knots indicated. No, knots, ground speed. The pilot made a position call on the MYF Common Traffic Advisory frequency that he was 3 miles on the approach, followed by the sound of the microphone button being keyed 7 times, consistent with an attempt to activate the pilot-controlled lighting. The airplane crossed Palos, located 2.9 nautical miles from the runway 28 right displaced threshold at an altitude of 1,190 feet and ground speed of about 120 knots. Let's see. Palos has a published minimum crossing altitude at or above 1,380 feet. Okay, so they were below that by almost, 200 feet? The airplane continued to descend until the ADS-B data ended at 346.47 at an altitude of about 464 feet MSL, which was 60 feet above ground. The first identified point of contact was a damaged power transmission line about 95 feet above the ground, located about 1.8 nautical miles from the runway 28 right displaced threshold. Portions of the left horizontal stab, left elevator, vertical stab were located about 200 feet downrange of the lines. The debris field was about 1,200 feet in length and on a magnetic heading of about 300 degrees from the first point of impact. The debris field spanned brush-covered terrain and a residential neighborhood. Anyway, so it goes on with a little bit more detail about the wreckage, and they said that a cockpit voice recorder was recovered from the wreckage. I think we did talk about the fact that we probably are not going to have any kind of information from a cockpit voice recorder, but because I don't think it's actually required operating this type of jet under Part 91. I could be wrong about that, but apparently
I think you're correct.
They did have a CVR, so that's going to be good for this investigation, and it has been sent to the NTSB Vehicle Recorders Laboratory for examination and audio extraction. The left and right engine full authority digital engine control, FADEC, units were recovered, retained for data download. The airplane was not equipped with a flight data recorder. Okay, but the cockpit voice recorder probably will be helpful in the investigation, I'm thinking. So that's the preliminary. And there's another article here that Liz has provided for us from Flying Magazine. And they go into a little bit more of a summary of what happened in the crash. So we'll include that in the show notes as well. So basically you have this marine layer, this thick layer of cloud that comes in off of the Pacific Ocean along the California coastline, especially so in Southern California. And, that was present at the time. So the visibility wasn't good and the ceiling was very low. And I don't know, based on the preliminary data and the evidence from hitting the high tension power lines and being almost 200 feet below the altitude they should have been at that point, looks like they just flew into these. They were too low. They flew into these power lines and it snagged the airplane's tail.
On the check ride for an instrument check ride, your minimums, your requirements are on an approach are, I believe they're plus 100 and minus 0. Meaning never low. And whenever I fly any kind of an approach, I always err on the side of high. Mm-hmm. Try to get as close to on glide slope as you can, but always give yourself more room than less if you can. So that I think this was purely he's outside, his eyes are outside trying to see whatever he can through the haze and just got low. It's unfortunate, but.
And also notable is the fact that the runway alignment indicator lights, the lights that kind of help you a little bit further out from the runway to help you align with the runway, obviously that's why they're named that, were out of service and had been for like at least 2 years or more. And so I think that this pilot flew in and out of this airport quite a bit. And so he must have been familiar with the lighting system, alignment lights being out of service. But it didn't say anything else about the approach lighting system. So I think the normal approach lighting system and the runway lights, edge lights, were all working because they didn't note anything about that in the report.
Jeff, we have Jen Niffer in the chat room, and she
has
a good point.
Jen Niffer. Hey, Jen. Long time no see. This crew was probably also tired given the time of night. Yeah, for sure. Because they probably had a full day before they even left New Jersey, and they flew all night long. Your fatigue has got to be a factor in this for sure.
One other just kind of note on that: it was a single pilot. He was certified single pilot for this airplane, which is it's not a super simple airplane to fly. It's normally required 2 crew members. So, and
it was relatively recent too, wasn't it? The qualification of single pilot for this. Yeah,
just a month or two before that, or a few months before that. I think it was December of 24, and this happened in what was it? April?
I guess it was June, I think, or May. No,
May.
Yeah, May. Yeah, so just a few months.
Just a few months
after he received that certification. But as you said, it's been a very, very, very long time since I've flown a jet by myself. And in fact, probably going all the way back to my initial pilot training in the Air Force when I was a student.
That's a long time ago.
And it is a long time ago, Liz. But my point being that almost every single one of my nearly 24,000 hours logged has been with another crew member, and operating a jet airplane, high performance airplane, solo. Now, Nick has all kinds of hours logged in his logbook of operating an aircraft by himself, high performance aircraft. But so that's not something that I have experience with, and I just can't imagine.
I'd be willing to bet even a good portion of that time Nick has logged being the only person in his airplane, he still has a wingman.
Yeah.
Effectively acting as a second set of eyes, kind of like a second crew member to some
Well, maybe
extent.
we should ask him. What do you think about that?
Well, we should.
What we've proposed there, Nick.
Well, I wouldn't give my wingman much credit for stopping me from killing myself or trying to.
Okay.
No,
Lots of blame, no credit.
I have to agree. Most of the time, though, I flew with almost exclusively with a navigator. They were great, but they had other duties. They really weren't like a pilot monitoring. So he did do monitoring of the flight, particularly when you're descending fast towards the ground. You know, he kept a close eye on the altitude and your rate of descent, that sort of thing, and would shout up if things weren't looking good. But completely different to the civil world, where a pilot monitoring is a crucial safety factor in maintaining your awareness of what's going on. I had obviously very few problems being a single seat. You just learn to do everything yourself. And, when it comes to just flying an approach, really and honestly, that's the simplest part of a military mission, is just landing the airplane or taking off. That's almost, you don't even bother discussing it normally because, that's just every day. The mission was considerably more complex, but doesn't take away from the fact that, at the end of a mission when you're a bit tired and you're relaxing now because the hard bit's over, but now you've got to make an instrument approach in foul weather, etc. The times when I was single seat as opposed to having a navigator with me, you definitely feel that pressure of that extra pair of eyes, that extra voice there you can say, hey, this isn't looking great. What do you reckon? No, Nick, let's go around and divert or something, something just to confirm your decisions. And because that is so comforting when you've got two of you combining to make a decision. And very rarely did I find that decision was to press on. We always erred on the side of caution. The hardest thing with this sort of thing, you've got to be so alert when you're quite right, AJ, when you're trying to seek a visual reference, yet still instrument flying. Because if you're not used to doing that, your scan can break down so easily, and you just spend a few too many seconds looking through the windshield, trying to pick up visual cues, trying to spot the runway. So easy, particularly if you haven't got the aircraft perfectly trimmed, just to let the nose drop. And in fact, there's a great tendency, because what you can see of the ground, the horizon will appear very depressed. And it's very easy to put that in the position of a normal horizon. So you almost purposely push the nose down to make the picture look right, which is the wrong thing to do. So, that is a real area of risk. And, if he wasn't long cleared for single pilot ops, then it's all a little bit new to him, and perhaps he's, not got to grips with it yet.
Dan's got a great comment here, Jeff.
Dan in our live audience says they should have gotten a hotel when they stop for fuel. The credit card is the best piece of safety equipment. Yeah, but we all know, you get that get-home-itis kind of a thing, and sadly sometimes that forces us into making a bad decision. I will also, and I tried to quickly find the article when we first covered this accident. I do recall that there were some news reporting about some of the actual people involved in this accident, and the fact that I think that the guy was sitting in the co-pilot seat was also a pilot, like a private pilot, or maybe working on his private ratings or whatever, or like a student pilot, but it wasn't just a passenger just occupying the right seat. I think it was, so it wasn't as if that single pilot sitting in the left seat was just all on his own and wasn't receiving help from the person sitting next to him. If I recall correctly, do you recall that at all, Liz?
I'm just trying to find the article myself. Vaguely,
Yeah.
Jeff, I do, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I recall anyway. It's been a while since I read it, but I think that they were doing social media posts like they were so excited about this trip, that I guess they had been planning on doing this for a while, and they were both heavily into aviation. So,
Well, and that could go either way, though. If you've got somebody who's a aspiring pilot or a less experienced pilot, and you take them up for a flight in your jet, you could be distracted by that. Not just, they may have could have been more of a hindrance than a help, actually, because you're trying to show them stuff or trying to talk to them and da-da-da-da-da, and
true.
that could lead to that same distraction.
And I can think back to all sorts of accidents where the pressure of publicity concerning a flight have actually led to people not wishing to disappoint the press, or in this case, social media, pressing on to complete a flight when they know that little voice inside them is saying, no, we shouldn't be doing this. But because of the external pressure, which is self-induced here, because if they're posting it on social media, they're the ones bringing this pressure onto themselves to do this flight, which they've told everyone about, and never good.
And not only that social pressure, as you mentioned, Captain Nick, but also the pressure if this airport is where this jet is based, I think so. All the logistics involving, okay, if we don't actually make it into this airport, we're going to have to go somewhere else. And then this, I don't know, maybe they already had something scheduled the next day, and they're thinking, well, this is going to completely ruin our plans, and it's going to cause a lot of extra time and hassle and logistics trying to get the airplane back to, you know what I mean? It's like there's more pressure there. Like, let's get this. This is where this airplane lives. It needs to be here tonight, and we're going to make that happen. And then, sadly, of course, we see what happened here.
Jeff, I just texted you the information about
Okay.
the other guy.
Liz has given me some information about the crew. Let's see, one of the pilots, Daniel Williams, former drummer for the metalcore band The Devil Wears Prada, and the other was Dave Shapiro, a music agent who worked with Sum 41, Hanson, Jefferson Starship, and other artists, and was also a pilot who ran his own aviation business. Let's see, in an Instagram story posted on Wednesday night, Mr. Williams shared a photo of their plane, a Cessna Citation, on a tarmac, and two more photos of himself in the co-pilot seat. So there you go. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Just so sad. I mean, obviously these guys were, in the
very
in the music
talented people. Yeah, they're probably greatly missed, not just by their families, but by all their fans.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get the information that we're seeking in the final report. And but I think a lot of what we have just discussed is probably going to be, likely what happened here. Just the pressure to continue and not optimum weather conditions. And just turned out to be a sad story. All right.
Yep. Before we go to the next one, I just want to say, this Dan guy is starting to really.
You like Dan, huh? Yeah, he's saying.
I'm starting to like him. Yeah,
that's a great point,
right.
AJ. Yeah. Hey, Dan, don't feed the trolls.
How much did you pay Dan, AJ?
It's not important how much he was paid, Liz. That's
How many of these accounts does AJ have?
Yeah, I did notice every time we see something from Dan, AJ has got his head down, typing things. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up the news, boys.
Okay, let's wrap up the news.
This is a good one.
Is a good,
This was sent in by AJ.
Oh, AJ sent this to
you sure
us.
it wasn't Dan?
Sorry, it was Dan.
Or Dan, maybe. This from a local news affiliate here in Atlanta, WSB TV. Let's see. A student pilot is facing years in prison after admitting to stealing a private plane and going on a joyride. Last week, Rufus Crane, 27 years old, of Florida.
Rufus.
I like Rufus too. Yeah, pleaded guilty to
I
one
knew
count
a dog called Rufus.
I sang in a funeral with a gentleman a couple of weeks ago, an older gentleman, older than I am, named Rufus.
Wow.
Great voice. Wow. Anyway, This dude pleaded guilty to one count of interstate transportation of stolen aircraft. He faces a maximum of 10 years imprisonment to be followed by 3 years of supervised release and a maximum fine of $250,000. According to court documents, he stole a Bonanza A-36 stored at Perry Airport in Perry, Georgia in May of 2024. The U.S. Attorney's Office of the Middle District of Georgia said the 27-year-old did not have flying credentials. So I guess, does that mean he didn't have a current certificate, or that he just didn't have any kind of...
Or he left them on the counter?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. When he took the single-engine aircraft, flew it to the Jars Townsend Airport in Waxhaw, North Carolina. Okay. At 12:42 a.m., so in the middle of the night on May 4th of 2024, officials said he left Waxhaw at 3:15 a.m. He stopped in South Carolina to refuel, stopped by and chatted with Dr. Steph, I think, and then he flew back to Perry. Court documents state that he arrived in Perry at 5:46 in the morning. However, he couldn't land immediately because it was too foggy and he couldn't see the runway. Okay. He flew the plane under instrument flight rules, meaning he used the aircraft's instruments and navigational aids instead of visual cues to fly the airplane. I don't know if I agree that it seems like if he was flying under IFR, he would have filed a flight plan. People would have known he was out there. You know what I mean? I mean, he was flying on instruments.
Words have meaning. This is that words have meaning thing. When you fly IFR, it's about what flight plan you're on and what rules you're following. If you fly IMC, instrument meteorological conditions, that means you're actually in the clouds, regardless of which rules you're following at the time.
I agree completely. That's what really
well explained, AJ.
Said.
Yes, I quite agree.
And just while I'm on my little rant, the picture at the top of the article is not an A-36.
Of course not.
Not even.
Would you expect them to have a picture?
That's my wife's Volvo, I think, that one.
Ooh, that's pretty fancy.
You got the new infotainment in that one. I like it.
No wonder it was so expensive. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It cost me a bomb.
Look, that's a Cirrus, isn't it? With the stick on.
It's an SR-20. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I looked at that too, and I went, okay, yeah, no.
That's that new fancy side stick STC for the Bonanza.
Oh, really? I've never seen one like that before.
Very, very expensive.
Yeah. The attorney's office said he only held a student pilot certificate at the time he was flying the stolen plane, and he also kept the transponder of the Bonanza turned off, which meant that the plane didn't send signals to air traffic control. So he wasn't following any rules, instrument or otherwise.
But we can still see you.
Rufus don't do no rules.
Yeah, Rufus don't do no rules for sure. But I have to say, as a student pilot flying instruments in instrument meteorological conditions, I mean, must have some flying talent.
We need to make sure we cover the fact that he did land safely and put the airplane back in the hangar. So I'm curious as to how he got caught.
Well, yeah, not only did he do that, he made some very sound decisions earlier concerning the weather, his diversion, his refuel, and then his flight in to bring the aircraft back. A lot of people have made a mess of that, so I'm actually quite impressed with him. But sadly, I don't think he's ever going to be a pilot again, unless he steals another airplane. Of course.
This will significantly derail any chances of him having a flying career, I think.
But let's be honest, having a license hasn't stopped him so far.
That's true.
Good point.
Yes.
He's headed for Alaska.
But I think the point that AJ just made, that the fact that, so he put the thing back to bed, like nothing happened. How was he discovered? How was this all revealed?
He was probably boasting about it.
Oh, at the bar.
I bet.
Let me tell you what I did.
I'm only guessing, but he's pleaded guilty. So they going to be nice to him, or are they going to rip him a new one?
I don't know.
Based on the quote of acting attorney U.S. Chanel Booker, it doesn't sound like they're going to be very easy on him.
How about this? So the owner of the aircraft comes and notices some It's
The
not
engines
the
are hot.
exact way I ran it before, and then is it true that even though he had the transponder off, and I think AJ, you kind of hinted at this when I read that well, ADS-B is still working, right? And or is it?
Maybe not.
Okay.
But there's still a primary target on the radar scope that's recorded.
Okay.
So you can see
so
something.
maybe that's how the owner just thought, wait a minute, something's not right. I'm going to investigate a little bit further, and then was able to determine that this happened, I guess. I don't know.
But wasn't him flying around without a transponder like endangering other people? Like it wasn't just that he stole the plane. Like he was up there.
I guess you could. I guess you might say that. Although when you're flying between the hours of midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning, GA, general aviation, chances are that I don't know if that really impacted anybody's safety out there. What do you think about that, AJ?
It's, like I said, go back to the same thing. ATC has a primary target on their radar scope, so they can see him and
Got it.
vector people and move
Not so
people
bad.
around him.
Yeah, okay.
You're
But
not
a
going to
primary-
have any TCAS issues because TCAS guys are going to be up significantly higher than what altitude
Right.
this guy's flying.
The
in
primary
general,
target
so-
that they would see on their screens, AJ, would be, but they don't have all the information about altitude and all that kind of stuff, right? But they can.
Correct. So they'll just make basically a little 3-mile bubble around that
Okay.
target and say, we
From
don't know
the
what
surface
altitude
to-
this guy's at, so
Whatever. Yeah.
surface to 1,000,000, surface
Yeah.
to SR-71.
Okay. Interesting.
Dan's got another good comment.
Oh, Dan says back in 2002, we had a student pilot steal a 172 while pre-flighting it and purposely crashed it into a building in downtown Tampa.
I think
Yikes.
I remember something about that story. That sounds familiar.
Oh, was he a disgruntled employee?
no,
I
that
seem
was
to
the
remember
guy
that happened.
Was that the guy that crashed into Walmart or something like that, or was going to crash?
I
into
think
Walmart?
we've covered stories like that recently, but not all the way back to 2002.
Yeah.
I don't, that was 7 years before I even started the podcast.
Different story though.
Yeah, that's sad. All right.
Okay.
That's going to do it for our news segment today. And we're now going to shift gears. And I'm going to play this, Getting to Know Us. We're going to have a lot of good stuff here to talk about. We've been busy. Getting to Know Us, that segment where we talk about what we've been up to between episodes. And yeah, go ahead. You can, there we go. Yeah, like who would like to go? I think we all have lots of stuff to talk about. So who wants to go first?
Maybe Captain Nick.
Captain
his
Nick.
voice might give out later.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's go with Captain Nick before his voice completely gives out. And tell us, Captain Nick, what happened to your voice?
Well, it's just a throat infection, so nothing to worry about. Or it might have been that 100 proof hooch that I got from the bloke down the road who distills his own that I
You gotta be
drank
careful
3
with that.
gallons of last night. Yeah,
Is that the one with the jugs and the X's on it?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's got 5 X's. I mean, it's pretty heavy stuff. Yeah, I know.
Billy's in list.
So
Yes,
I'm,
Those hillbillies of list.
there's nothing but
That's some-
hillbillies in Bliss.
Good Southern whiskey right there.
Exactly. So I've been taking it a bit easier, but sadly I've been a bit under the weather. So didn't help my bowling. We've been knocked out of just about everything. It was just, we were doing really well in our county pairs competition, but as the evening wore on and I began to get a bit, feel a bit dreadful, things started to go downhill. So yeah, no worries. We it's only like my partner said, it's only a game. Yes,
It's so
it
easy to
is
say
only
that,
a
isn't
game.
it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just a game.
Yeah, some of you may remember I went into hospital for a quick checkup of my digestive system.
Yeah.
And I was very glad to report that they have found nothing.
Good.
So I can relax for a few years.
You have
anyway.
nothing inside?
Yeah, absolutely.
nothing.
I'm a void They even looked at my head, and then
I was gonna
we've
say,
never
the brain
seen
scan.
anyone with nothing, in his head. Yeah, absolutely.
No problem with the brain. In fact, we can't find one.
It's just an empty shell. But hopefully this will, heal up before long, because I'm getting fed up waking up in the middle of the night and croaking. So there you go.
We don't want you to croak.
Yeah, no croaking allowed.
You haven't croaked yet.
Well, I haven't croaked while I'm still croaking, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
No, yeah, right. So nothing really special here. Really looking forward to seeing Logan later this month. He's coming over, and we're having a bit of a get-together in London. So yeah, that's good. Captain Nev, Nev, and his lovely wife. She's the captain. Sue, yeah, they're coming as well. And I said to my wife, would you like to come join us? We're having a bit of a meet-up in London. And lo and behold, she found a dog sitter. So we're all going. That's going to be great. Looking forward.
I can't wait to hear
dating.
about that.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not sure if Logan's bringing anyone or whether he's coming
his wife's
solo.
coming. His wife's coming.
His wife's coming. Oh,
so.
okay. Excellent. Well, I thought so, but I looked at the emails and I couldn't see any reference. But anyway, I hope so, because then we'll form a nice little party. We're going up the Shard, which is a spiky-looking
Very
tall
posh.
building with great views over London. So let's hope it's a nice day.
Yeah, I don't think. I'm pretty sure that his wife will be with him, because I don't think he is allowed to be on his own without supervision. So, yeah.
Yes, that's what his
Requires a
airline says as
chaperone.
well.
I think he's actually cutting his visit to Oshkosh short to come over to London.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, well, I don't know about that. That seems like an interesting life choice.
Yeah, well, we understand entirely why
Happy
you'd want
wife,
to give
happy
up on
life.
Oshkosh and come and see some nice people.
Oh.
Wow.
Right, artwork.
Okay. You'll never ever see
Artwork.
Captain Nick back at Oshkosh.
That was a burn.
Banned. He's banned
Yeah, it
forever.
could be. I'll have to go on with a false name. You know?
Where will you get your cheese curd tacos, Nick?
I've no idea.
Cheese curds.
I mean, where else? I mean, can you get a cheese curd taco anywhere else in the world?
If I knew what a cheese curd taco was, I would
It is
probably
the greatest
comment.
culinary achievement mankind has ever done.
Well,
I put poutine up against.
yeah,
Poutine is up
well,
there, yeah.
better than
I don't know.
poutine, which is something else I have heard about but never tried, and probably
you
have
Give
no
poutine
intention
a
of.
run for its money.
You haven't lived.
Okay.
Okay,
right.
Captain Nick, you did some good cover art last week.
Well, yeah, the week before I got a real telling off from Liz, because Liz is very fond of our jackass, because she thinks we're all jackasses.
She hangs
So
around jackasses all the time.
Yeah, it's a familiar
Exactly.
thing.
So I've put a jackass penguin into the recent art, and last week I forgot, so I do apologize. In response, I felt it necessary
overboard.
to make up by putting 668 jackass penguins
Wow.
into the artwork.
Has somebody actually counted them to make sure that there are definitely?
I
I did. I
did.
put every single one in by hand.
I double checked him. There are
Okay.
668 penguins.
But we've turned it into a kind of Where's Wally? Or
Where's Waldo?
if you're an American, Where's Waldo?
If
I
you're
don't
anywhere
know.
else except England.
Well, no, I think everywhere else in the world has a Where's Wally. So the Where's Wally has the crew in it. And the first one was Capture Captain Jeff, and there he is. He's there with his black,
Hat on.
penguin markings and his hat on, looking very formal. And he's just to the right of Nab Nick. So the next one down was AJ, who's a little bit up from Ascertain. And I think he's probably one of the best looking penguins. He's got the nose for it.
He's a great looking jackass for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
He is, absolutely. So I quite like
one of my best
AJ Ascertain. Then we've got, we haven't got Spot Steph yet, but beside Spot Steph, we've got I'm falling asleep. So I'm
Looks like
having a snooze.
you've croaked.
Well, yeah, you can tell, can't you? And then looking away from me in disgust is producer Liz, who we had to locate Liz. And then finally there's Steph. Now, Steph was difficult because I put her in there and then I couldn't find her again. She was really hard to find. But eventually I found her again. If you come down from the sort of L of Liz, then you'll see her sort of there hiding behind one of the penguins. So she's with her penguin hat on. Yeah. So that's there you go. That's where Steph is.
Okay, and then the logo. I think.
Finally, the logo and the show number. Well, if you take the name of Steph and just extend it right, you will see 668 quite clearly on someone's chest. And instead of having penguin wings, they've got APG wings behind that particular.
Which means that they still can't fly.
Indeed. You're permanently grounded.
Same
effect. Exactly. So I had fun doing that one. So thanks very much for making me. I really, really enjoyed it. So that was good fun. And I'm looking forward to some decent suggestions for this week.
That's
okay.
scaring me. I don't have.
That's unfortunate.
All right.
Nothing to do with ballooning, please.
AJ, yeah. What have you been up to with other
it's
co-hosts?
This later part of this week has been all about America and blowing stuff up. So did some fireworks things,
which we do very well.
Kind of what we do. Yeah. Got to go to actually a couple of different fireworks shows. In where I live, I'm very near a town called Kennesaw, and Kennesaw does their fireworks celebration, their July 4th celebration, all that on July 3rd. We're also very near another
point of order, Mr.
town.
Chairman.
Yeah, exactly.
How can you have a July 4th celebration on July 3rd?
It's an America celebration. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Or as Liz,
independent, and they can do it any day they want.
yeah, and
We
then
do what we want.
Liz also, mentioned that it's the Independence Day Eve.
Exactly.
Yep. See,
Well,
Look,
you got to
if we
make
can
them
have a
go over
birthday month-
midnight then.
if we can have a birthday month, then we can have a couple of days of Independence Day.
Well,
I'm
no
just
one's
saying.
mentioned that we had Canada Day this week, but we did.
Oh,
that,
well,
too.
yeah. Well, you should come on and do your getting to
No,
know
that's fine.
Liz, and you can
No.
tell us about Canada Day.
No, there's no need. It's
Okay.
already right.
All right.
Anyway, go on, AJ.
You had your chance. That's all I'm saying. Anyway. So got to do a couple of different fireworks shows. So anyway, so like I said, Kennesaw is a medium-ish town, very, very near to another town called Marietta, and it's a little bit larger town. We're still talking towns, not proper cities, but they're
Is that a
decent-sized
Kennesaw
suburbs.
in that in that slide? Is that
That picture is Kennesaw.
Okay.
That was on the evening of the 3rd, and they don't want to compete with Marietta. Marietta does a very large fireworks show and their big festival and all these things, and 15 minutes up the road is Kennesaw, and they do a big festival with food trucks and concerts and all the things. So they do them on different nights so that everybody gets to have two. Basically, you don't have to pick your favorite. So this picture was my youngest at the Kennesaw fireworks display, which was a great time. They've got an amazing kind of amphitheater area, big, huge park, lots of really nice grass, and everybody just sets up their blankets. I think there might have been in that stack of photos, Liz, if you go like a couple more in, actually these are not in order and I apologize, but the one of the big open, that's my other daughter, similar place, one more past that one, the one with just the big open kind of landscape view. That one, there you go.
Oh, beautiful.
So you can kind of
sunset.
see. Oh, it was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, it was beautiful. And right behind that, the lights there on kind of the center of the screen, right behind those trees is where the fireworks came up from. So really great view, really close. That kind of roof thing you see over there on the left, we're actually on the back side of the amphitheater stage in the park area, which is nice because we're closer to the escape route. But they had bands playing on that stage, and we could hear all the music and stuff, and food trucks, like I said, and it was just a great time. Really, really fun time to get to spend. And then we did fireworks again on the next night on Friday.
Last night.
But before I did fireworks on Friday, we happened to run into another one of our APG crew members. Steph happened to be in town, and we got to take Steph and my two younger girls and my wife, and we all went to the Museum of Illusions, which is a whole museum dedicated to optical illusions and effects and things. As you can see, they managed to stand on the ceiling.
Wow.
It was actually kind of cool.
3 bats hanging on the ceiling.
Yeah, it's 3 bats. And a very talented one in the middle.
Right.
Only one leg necessary to hang.
Oh, she's got the talent, and she's not afraid to show it. Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, when I saw this in Evernote this morning, AJ, I thought, why did you put that picture in there upside down? And then I went, oh, okay. Now I see.
Wait a minute.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was really neat. They had different places you could take different photographs and stuff, and different optical illusions and different examples of different things. It was really, really kind of actually a really neat museum. It was a lot of fun. And then after that, actually, if they go the very last one of the Evernote, Liz, we ended up accidentally inside the fireworks. That was an
Oh no!
Oh my!
But no one was harmed in the making of this picture.
And that is your lovely wife, Shaq.
It is my lovely wife there in the background, and so it was. This is you're standing inside of a kaleidoscope.
Oh, wow.
It was really, really neat. Yeah, like I said, there's a bunch of different stuff like that. So Steph's got a bunch more pictures, and I'm going to let her tell more of the story because she was immediately captured by the children and literally drug off into the distance. We lost them for periods of time because the children were just dragging her by her heels all over the place. It was great.
I'll bet that Steph enjoyed it even more than your girls.
I think so. I think she had a good time. And
yeah.
After that, we got to go do some lunch. And there's a little place right there. We did this at Atlantic Station down in Atlanta. So if that counts for anything, that's how much I enjoyed hanging out with Steph, as I was willing to go into the city of Atlanta. That's not nothing. Just saying.
Nice.
Jeff knows he's been into Atlanta. It's. I don't.
Yeah.
I would go with caution.
There's good and
That's
bad.
all I'll say.
Good and bad, right? Yeah.
But we went to a neat little brewery type place called Hobnob. Had some really great food, some good beer, and got to hang out. And then after that, had a little barbecue over at another friend's house. Just got to kind of hang out and spend some time with friends that we haven't seen in quite a while, which is really, really nice. Really enjoy seeing them. And then on the way home, we have to pass by a couple of horse farms. The area I live in, as little as 10 years ago, was basically all horse farms, and now it's kind of grown into Metro Atlanta, but there's still a few holdouts. And over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, we've started seeing these little banners being put up on the fence of one of the fields. It says fireworks on July 4th. And then just a few days ago, all of a sudden there was a sign that said parking here for fireworks. And we're nowhere near, any of the big city fireworks displays or anything like that. So we're like, wonder what that's all about. So we're on our way home from the barbecue. Again, we weren't dead set on seeing fireworks because we'd done it the night before. We'd had our big fireworks show, so we were kind of satisfied with that.
Good for another year.
And all of a sudden we're like, man, there's a lot of cars in this field, and there's a guy with a wand and parking people and stuff. And we're like, oh, I guess we'll watch some more fireworks. So if you go to the picture with them sitting on top of the roof, Liz, that's the little fireworks show. But the girls got to sit up on top of the car and watch fireworks, and it was no charge, no not even like a donation bucket or anything. It was just community thing,
nice.
Which I thought was really, really cool. Just a little small, but and decent fireworks show actually.
And a nice sunset again.
It was absolutely perfect. Yeah. Absolutely gorgeous. So, yeah, just had a fantastic last few days, especially. Got to do a lot of family time, which is really cool.
Very nice.
So.
Very
I
nice.
think Jeff had some good days too.
Yeah, so I had the last couple of days, and I do apologize for any of those who are in our live audience that were expecting us to record on Wednesday afternoon. And I was in the middle of a lunch date, I guess. Not really a date, but a lunch get-together. With engagement, thank you. With a couple of young ladies. What?
I said that escalated quickly from a date to an engagement. Oof.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
move
yeah,
fast.
really. Yeah. We're going to be announcing the date for the merit. No. But anyway, these are some new friends of mine. The young lady with the blue hair. It's not her natural hair color, just to let you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Is she young or does she have blue hair? Because I thought those were
both
conflicting ideas.
Yes. Oh, I see. A blue hair is usually a reference to a very old woman. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I know. I see where you're going. But anyway, I met her about 6 months ago at a waitress at a restaurant, and we became because I like to hang out at that restaurant because I love their food, and kind of developed a friendship. And anyway, her nickname is Bam. And her partner is behind me there. That's Nancy. And they took me to a seafood boil restaurant. And then after that was like, I think Liz kind of picked up rather quickly that Jeff is never going to make it back to Roswell, to the studio in time to do the show that we had scheduled to record today. And so thankfully, my wonderful friends and co-hosts, one and the same, let us reschedule for this morning, Saturday morning. So that's why we had to do that. So it's my fault. I got all caught up and carried away with my lunch and more. That was not the lunch. With the seafood boil, and then we shopped at an Asian department store, and then we got some bobo tea at a bobo tea place. And then I've never had that before, and it was really, really yummy. And then we went down to Nancy's, where she works, and she's a chef at a place in off of 75 Howell Mill, not too far from the Georgia Tech campus, AJ, if you're kind of familiar with that area. And so anyway, she went back in the back of the kitchen and made some ribeye steak skewers, and we snacked on that.
You ate every 30
This is
minutes,
what I
or-
have to. This is what I have discovered. Both of these ladies are from Thailand, and apparently you eat every 30 minutes. And I like to eat, but I had to stop eating. In fact, when we were at that rooftop bar at New Realm Brewing on the Atlanta Beltline, that picture right there, they got a plate of special French fries. I didn't even have one French fry. I was so stuffed from everything that I'd been eating all day long. I don't know how these
And they're so
very skinny people were
the
able to
opposite of what-
continue to eat. What?
It's the opposite of what normal people do when they go out and bar hop. You're like, man, I have to eat something because I've had too many drinks. You need to drink something because you've had too many foods.
It was like a totally bizarre experience for me because I love eating, and especially when I'm drinking, I love to have something to eat along with it. I was like, I can't. I'm so stuffed. I can't eat anymore. I can't even taste it. Anyway, so I had a great time with them. And then 2 days later, Bam had invited me to a party on the 4th. She asked, "What are you doing on the 4th of July?" And at that point, I wasn't sure. And she said, "We're having to get together, a picnic, and a couple of our, Nancy and Bam's friends, one from Laos and one from Myanmar. They both have been living here in the States for a number of years, and they're both chefs at another restaurant, a Thai restaurant. The guy that's taking the picture here to our right, he was basically the cook in charge, and I had the most extraordinarily tasty feast of seafood, prawns, and pork ribs, and chicken, and squid, all grilled on the charcoal grill there. It was amazing, and then the sauces they had to dip. It was incredible. So
Well, Jeff, you
amazing
found the place
feast.
to go. You found the picnic.
Yeah,
place,
so-
which was kind of cool.
Yeah, so Bam, so I said, okay, like, where are we doing the picnic thing? And then she goes, I don't know. Well, she said, we're thinking about Lake Lanier. And I go, oh, okay, that's beautiful up there, because I'd gone to several campgrounds up there. And I knew that there was no way that I could get a campsite. It's the 4th of July. It's probably the busiest day of the year here in the U.S. for campsites. And so I did a little bit of research, and I said, well, what about like going to a park on the lake, whatever? And then Bam basically said, well, you're the expert, you're the local, so we'll count on wherever you want to go. And I think, wait a minute, how did this happen? I was just going to show up, but apparently now I'm in charge of figuring out where we're going to go. So we found the lower outlook of the dam, what's it called? The Buford Dam, Lake Lanier. A beautiful, beautiful park. And so, but the first thing I did on Friday morning was I sang at a special 4th of July Mass at my church. And then I came back to the apartment, changed clothing, obviously, and then headed up to the lake just to make sure that this was going to be a good spot for us to hang out. But yeah, it was nice and shady, found a picnic table, and it was just, within yards of the lake. And yeah, had a great time. So met some more new friends. So that was a lot of fun. And then when I came back here, it was starting to get dark here in Roswell, and I thought, there's this new place across the street that has a 6-story parking deck. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I should go over there or not. It's probably packed, jam-packed with people. But I walked over, I grabbed a beer and put it in my little Yeti, cooler thing, like you put the beer in the thing to keep it cold, like a koozie, a Yeti koozie, and walked over to the parking deck and climbed the 6 flights of steps up to the top, and hardly anybody up there. And I'm thinking, ooh, this is nice. And you had a panoramic view of fireworks in Buckhead, Stone Mountain, Avalon up in Alpharetta, all these different places. And you look along the horizon line and you could see all the fireworks going off. And then here in Roswell itself, at the Roswell Area Park, pretty close by, they also were shooting off fireworks. So it was pretty cool. So it was just me and several other people up there, hanging out and enjoying the fireworks. So that's what I did last night. So it was a great 4th of July holiday for me. That's
Nick,
it.
we're disappointed you didn't blow anything up.
Didn't blow anything up.
He was blowing up his nose.
Oh, sorry.
So Jen
It's
says
required.
She's done,
Yeah.
Jen says she's done the same thing, Jeff.
Oh yeah, Jen Niffer says I've done that at the airport garage to see all the fireworks. I mean, it was a great vantage point for seeing stuff. So, yeah.
Do you have like American restaurants in, how we have British pubs and Irish pubs and all over the world, honestly, but do you have like an American diner in London or something like that?
Not that I can think of. I've been to some rib places in London, which, very American, full of flags and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, they do exist. But I don't think I've seen a diner-style restaurant. Not to say there isn't one there. Big place, London.
I don't know why that just hit my brain. I was curious.
McDonald's, maybe?
Oh, yeah, we've got a few of those.
There you go.
Jeff,
There's some American cuisine. Yes, ma'am?
Jeff, do you want to just talk briefly about your trip to Oshkosh, like when you're?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So thank you, Liz. So this next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, is going to be jam-packed with amazing fun and memories being made, I'm sure. I am leaving next week on Thursday morning for, I'm going to sing in a couple of funerals this week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday morning, going to be setting off and heading north up to eventually the Georgian Bay on Lake Huron to meet a certain podcast producer named Liz Piper, who every year rents a cottage for a couple of weeks. And this year's a little bit different, Liz. You're chosen a new location.
I have.
And
it happens to be handy for going to Oshkosh, kind of.
Yeah, it makes it very handy for going to Oshkosh. Thank you, Liz. I'm sure that wasn't the reason that you chose.
It actually wasn't, but it's great.
Yeah. But so anyway, I'm going to take a couple of days to get up to the cottage, arriving on Saturday. But on the way up, and Liz really helped a lot with me choosing a couple of Harvest Host locations to park overnight.
Helped him focus.
On the way. Yeah. I was having a lot of trouble focusing on just life. So she helped me focus by helping me out with the choice of locations. And so the first night is going to be at a place just outside of Lexington, Kentucky, somebody's private property, a Boondocker's Welcome host. And I believe he has electricity because it's going to be warm. It's a farm, and it's going to be warm. And so we thought it'd be nice to find a place that I could plug in electricity so I could run my air conditioning. And so that's where we're going to be, or where we, just me. I'm going to be the first night. And then the second night up toward the Detroit area, Toledo, actually a little bit north of Toledo, Ohio.
Right. Temperance, Michigan.
Temperance, Michigan.
You won't be drinking there.
I'll be intemperate for sure. I don't know. But Temperance, Michigan, and another farm, I think. They're a commercial farm with electricity. Yes. So that's a bonus. And then the following day, I'll set off and cross the Canadian border. Hopefully they'll allow me into their fine country and meet up with, I'll be going to a vigil mass on Saturday afternoon. And then after that, meet up with Liz and spend many days together at the cottage. And then on Thursday of the next week, setting off for Ludington, Michigan, for an overnight there, and then the next day on the ferry. I think I've talked about this before. Going to be taking the SS Badger ferry across Lake Michigan, and then that takes you over to Manitowoc, I think, Wisconsin, or Manawoc, something like that. Manitowoc, I think. Anyway, doesn't matter. And then arriving in Oshkosh on Friday, the weekend before everything starts at AirVenture. And so I'm looking forward to any and all of you who are listening to the podcast right now. Look forward to meeting up with everybody that I can while I'm there at Oshkosh. So.
Only those listening now, not those listening next week.
No, not in the future. If you're listening in the future, forget it. No.
Too late, sorry.
Too late. And if you're listening to this podcast after AirVenture has already occurred, then obviously I'm not going to be meeting up with you. Yeah, we missed you. But AJ is going to be there for a few days, I think.
Will be there.
And
I'm hoping to come in on Sunday, I think, is
okay.
Saturday or Sunday, so shortly after you arrive. I mean, I can't get there before you arrive because you're bringing my tent. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to hold you up, man.
Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah.
And a recent word from Steph is she's planning on being there Wednesday and Thursday of the show week. So it'll be a couple days there, and I don't know what. Have you heard plans from Camacho?
I'm not sure when Camacho is going to be arriving, but he's definitely going to be there as well. So we'll try to be really good at posting on social media. We'll try.
Camacho took that over last year, didn't he?
Camacho, was really good about kind of making updates about what was going on with us, the crew, while we were there at AirVenture. So hopefully, we're not, right now, I haven't planned for anything as far as like doing a recording and all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to kind of leave it up to serendipity to see what happens there.
We're going to wing it? Is that what you're
saying? We're going to wing it.
Yeah. We might do one from the cottage, maybe.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, we'll definitely probably do a show recording while we're up at the cottage on Lake Huron. So yeah, it's going to be a really, really fun couple of weeks here. So I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, good. Time for some coffee.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh, yeah. The Coffee Fund. I got my little La Mazorco cup, huh? The Coffee Fund is the way you, dear listener, can support our show financially if you desire. We do this for free, mostly a labor of love for us, but if you'd like to support the show and you have the resources to do that, we welcome it. A couple different ways for you to do that. One is the Coffee Fund Classic method. And since the last show, we have John Miller sending us a nice, generous contribution to the
Miller time.
Coffee. Oh, it's Miller time. Yeah. And he also sent a little note to accompany his contribution. He said, "Hi, Jeff. I'm pretty sure you'll remember me from my attendance at the live APG recording of episode 300 in 2017 at Dana's house. I've been a sporadic listener over the years since then. Nevertheless, I have ignored up until now the little voice in my head telling me to give to the APG cause." And he has contributed $50 to our PayPal donation page. So thank you, John, so much. He says, "I hope to see you again in person." So we hope to see you as well, John. And so thank you. And then also, if you'd like to become a patron of the show via Patreon, you can sign up for that. And information about how you can learn about the Coffee Fund and how you can be a participant, head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And as I like to say, you'll be glad you did. We will too.
Captain, incoming message.
Okay, we've had this for a while from Carter Boswell. And I believe that Carter is also a former airline pilot, retired. He calls himself the Boz. That's cool. Like Boz Skaggs. And let's see. What changes are being made with the air traffic control system? Hello, Captain Jeff and fellow APG crew members. I think it would be a great idea to invite some senior, and I mean very senior officials from the FAA to be interviewed for your show about the upcoming changes to the air traffic control system, or aircraft control system. Air traffic, I think that's what it means. What is planned, for instance? What is the time frame for these changes to occur? Who will be expected to make these changes immediately as they are instituted? I've had a little bit of an idea that should be pondered by our esteemed aviation experts on the APG program. Esteemed experts!
Do we have those?
Help! Nope, they're not here today.
Dang.
No,
Jeff, they're
they're
taking a day off today.
Yeah.
I gave the esteemed experts the day
They've
off.
had a decade off.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love the show. Been a listener for quite a long time. Keep up the good work. And if you're ever in the Tucson area, let me know. I have a guest house you guys could hang out in for a little bit. But for a little bit. I'm not going to give you like I'm going to give you a set of time frame here. We're not going to let you live there, Jeff.
You have 61 hours. That's it.
So Captain Carter, and let's see. Yeah, he's a retired airline pilot. Okay, so the following is how I think that the new ATC system should work. I thought you might enjoy the following. As a retired airline pilot who made many trips into and out of LaGuardia, as well as other airports around the world, it's way past time that the FAA institute a system of text messaging directions to aircraft that are now done via voice messaging over an old radio. Imagine for a moment that you're driving your car, you're coming to a stoplight, you want to make a right turn. Imagine that you had to ask permission to make a right turn from some traffic control authority. That's currently what's going on with the airlines and any airlines flying in our national airspace system. He says, not CPDLC. These text messages are clear and concise, but the current verbal messages over the radio are fraught with confusion, or somebody misunderstands what was said. There's an old saying in aviation that nothing changes until somebody dies. Everybody that flies, and sometimes it doesn't change even after that. Everybody that flies professionally as well as for recreation now has access to an iPad. For those of you who don't fly, there is an iPad software program called ForeFlight that probably 90% of the pilots in the nation use as an electronic flight bag, or EFB. If coupled with Elon Musk's Starlink internet system, these iPads present a clear alternative to our current ATC communications snafu. But the real really important part of this new technology is the fact that communications and their effects can be visually presented on the iPad. The other part that makes it critical is that air traffic controllers and control towers across America can now visually look at their screens in the control towers so that there's no confusion between what the ground controller and the tower controller have directed. So he gives us a little preview of what he's talking about here so everybody understands and is on the same page. Let's say a ground controller issues a United jet clearance across a runway at LaGuardia Airport. This is a common clearance at many airports. It can be visually depicted on the screens of not just the pilots in their cockpits, but also for the controllers in the control tower. What's different about it? The ground controller did not give him a verbal command. In other words, he didn't say anything over the radio to the United jet. Instead, he did two things on his screen before him. The first thing he did was look, see if anybody's cleared to land on that runway or take off from it. If somebody had already been cleared for either of these actions, the runway would have been colored red on his screen. Now, where did the red color on the runway come from? Since the tower controller is in charge of who is taking off and landing on the runway, it's the tower controller who would have tapped the symbol for the airplane on the screen, then swiped the runway indicating that an airplane upon approach or an airplane that was cleared for takeoff had been cleared to land, or basically just used the runway. This red color would appear on every screen associated with the airport, whether they were in a cockpit of a jet or a private airplane or up in the control tower where you might have 10 or 15 screens. This completely eliminates confusion, so you don't have one airplane landing on one runway, another airplane taking off from a crossing runway. If you had the situation occurring, both runways would have been colored red. Okay, so he goes on to describe in detail his idea of symbology and the fact basically just using the radio frequencies for emergencies only, so the frequency would be quiet all the time. So basically he envisions a system where you'd be doing text messaging basically for all air traffic control instructions, and everything that would be updated on the iPad would be updated to everybody playing in the arena. And okay, well, it's an interesting idea, and I've heard people propose this sort of thing, BOZ, in the past. I'm afraid that I'm not in the camp of thinking that this is a good idea. I've always loved the idea of CPDLC for airplanes that are up at cruise altitudes and getting oceanic clearances, and even, in cruise altitudes over busy airspace areas that are, that form of communication is effective and not necessarily time critical. But I think my co-host will agree with me that when you start getting into the environment of the TRACON and airport local area, the tower controllers and ground controllers and all the stuff that's happening very, very quickly, the need for clear, concise, and time critical, or I'm trying to think of a good word here, but yeah.
Prompt is a good word. But
prompt,
it's not just the
immediate.
timing also. It's not just the timing. It's the ability to split your attention.
Yes.
If you think about driving in a car, we're allowed to talk on the phone and drive, but we're not allowed to text and drive. And part of that is the way that you're able to intake information. We're taking in a tremendous amount of information with our eyes already, looking at the runway, looking at the instruments, looking at whatever it is in whatever phase of flight. Our ears are open. They're available to take that information in. If you add another screen in, that could draw away from the other things you need to be looking at.
I agree.
You have to type.
Not only that, that's another thing. Liz makes the point that you have to type. That's another potential distraction. But of course, I think he's talking about maybe not so much typing, but like selecting icons and making swiping actions and that kind of thing. But it's like we all have, all of us have, or most of us have smartphones, and perhaps a lot of us have iPads as well. But it's very easy to like tap the wrong button, to make a movement or a gesture that wasn't the gesture that we intended to make. So
the swipey thing on StreamYard.
Yeah, the swipey thing. You've seen it here on the show when we're recording, and if you have an Apple, what do they call it, Apple Mouse or Apple Magic Mouse or whatever, if you swipe, if you're in StreamYard and you swipe a certain way, that basically knocks you out of the stream. So that's just an example of an inadvertent kind of gesture being made on a touch screen, and then throw in, and I'm sure we all have experience with trying to use an EFB in turbulent conditions. It's sometimes a challenge because everything's bouncing around and you're trying to do something with, tapping the screen with your finger and swiping and all that kind of stuff. And that's just, by the way, yes, he's true. It is correct that most of the people out there in general aviation and in the scheduled airline world now have iPads as electronic flight bags. But I think there's a reason why we're not using these things for air traffic control communications, because they do have limitations. One of the limitations is the fact that your internet signal, and he mentions, Starlink, as a internet platform, as a satellite internet platform. But we all know that sometimes that connectivity is not there. And if you're depending upon having this as your primary means of communication and you lose the internet signal or whatever, I mean, I just see the potential for chaos, with that aspect of the thing. And
there's too many points of failure.
Yeah, too many points of failure. Right. I get where he's coming from, and yeah,
I think CPDLC and text message communication definitely has its place, as we talked about. Especially things like en route clearances or clearances off the ground, stuff that's not extremely, like you said, time sensitive, time critical. To the second kind of situation. Mm-hmm. When he mentioned having the runways marked off in red when they're being used, I can think of a handful of airports where they would just always be red. Mm-hmm. Like Atlanta, for example. Yeah. There would never be a non-red runway on that screen. So there is something to that. In Charleston, which is a joint international airport and an Air Force base, I got the opportunity to go tour their tower a few months ago, and one of their controllers actually built a device that has switches on either side of the tower cab, so that the ground controller and the tower controller can turn on or off these lights. But they have all their runways depicted, and they have red flashing lights. So when the ground controller says, "Hey, I'm going to cross somebody on blah 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 runway," he flicks that switch, and this depiction actually does have red lights on it. It says, "Hey, this person is crossing this runway," and the other person can turn it on or off as well if they've got someone landing or taking off, and so on. So now, granted, Charleston is a much smaller airport in terms of number of operations than some of the bigger stuff. So it is something there is something to it.
Yes.
But it's where and how it fits, I think, is going to be the real critical thing for that.
And with all the flaws in our old-fashioned radio frequency communication systems, the potential for, and we've seen it, we've heard it, people talking over each other. So there's like an important instruction given that wasn't heard, and all the other inherent, risks and flaws of that style of communication. I personally still feel it's what's still necessary until something else comes along that is much more solid and safe, for the operations close in, again, away from the airport environment and the busyness of the airspace. I think that the text communications is the way to go. What do you think, Captain Nick?
Well, I'm in agreement with you generally, Jeff, because I think, quite rightly, the current technology isn't sturdy enough for the level of safety we need. But I do like the idea. And if you think about how good we are now at interpreting information on our phones or iPads or whatever it is. It really is going to be the next generation of communication on board the airplane as well. The sort of thing I can see as a halfway house would be, and it would have to be better than it currently is, voice to text readout. So you can turn your telly on and you can get subtitles. Now, if we could get subtitles for what the air trafficker has just said, put up onto a head-up display on the windshield, so we wouldn't have to divert our eyes from where we're looking. And it was 99.99 recurring % accurate. I think that would be an absolute boon, because we've still got the radio, which is technology that's, 70, 80 years old when it comes to aviation. I'm amazed we haven't thought of anything better. But we can sort of blend in text to make that easier to understand, and so that we can reread it. So if we didn't quite catch it the first time, we can hold it there and absorb it. And if the guy's spoken a bit fast, then we can cope with that. I love the idea of more excuse me, I'm suffering here. I love the idea of more graphics. So, if a runway is occupied, at the moment we've got systems where you physically light up the runway in red lights when someone is going to cross it or someone's been given a landing clearance. That is awfully expensive, and not many airports can afford that. But if you were to put a graphic on your airfield map to indicate the same information, this runway is occupied. You're using your electronic taxi chart to get around the airport. If the runway you're about to cross suddenly turns red on the graphic, then I would go, whoa, what's that? It would be much cheaper to write a piece of software that does that, instead of physically laying out a whole bunch of lights and digging up your runways and all that kind of stuff. So I can see that might be a way to improve safety. I can definitely see that. So there are ways that we can integrate it, but I was trying to text my wife the other day and say I can't set the alarm system on our house because I've got a lousy signal and it's not being accepted. But she couldn't get the message either. I can just see so many situations where you're trying to send a message to the air trafficker saying, I'm about to die, and it doesn't get through for whatever reason. So, it needs to be something that is absolutely foolproof and is absolutely guaranteed. And that level of communication is not out there yet. I can see it happening, and perhaps voice to text would be a halfway house that would allow the radios to continue to work, and also, let us read what's being said. Having said that, we're still using radio technology where it is possible to speak over somebody and completely block a signal. Yet we can duplex on our damn telephones. Why can't we duplex on the radio? It's because it's really old technology. But if we had a transmit frequency and a receive frequency that were different, you could hear both sides of conversations without any danger of interruption. There's probably good reasons why we can't do that. There's not enough frequencies available. So, therein lies a technological issue that prevents us doing that. But I certainly think we really need to work it. I've a certain amount of sympathy for people who say old technology is proven, is great, but it continually lets us down. So it's not that great. And it's time we really did look at what is available out there with regards to perhaps AI-driven technology. Certainly much better than we've currently got. Old-fashioned, but the VHF radios, it's just been around for too long now. We need to think a way of improving on that method of communication.
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So I was thinking about the thing, and you've heard me say this many times if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, that when I get into the airport and the TRACON, the approach control, departure control environment, I'm hearing communications not only from the air traffic controller to me and my communication back, but I'm also hearing the communications with that air traffic controller with all the other parties that are involved on the frequency in my area. And I'm building this mental picture of where they are, what they're doing, what they're saying, what they're communicating. And that to me is a big safety valve. And I guess there would probably be a way to graphically present that on an iPad display, by seeing it. But you might actually be able to see the location of other traffic on your screen and the general direction, et cetera, but you don't hear what air traffic control told them to do. You only see what they're doing. And I think that's a limitation to that kind of technology in my mind. And the other thing is, and we've talked about all these runway excursions, incursions, near disasters on runways when somebody was given a clearance for takeoff and then another clearance for crossing. And the radio in a lot of circumstances prevents a tragedy or a disaster from happening because someone goes, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm cleared to cross? You just cleared this guy for takeoff. Well, if it were in a system with texting technology, it would be impossible for them to show all the different communications that are going on with all the different players in this environment. And so they're not going to give me that information. It's like the thing that I always complain about when you're on different frequencies on an active runway. That's taking a safety amount of safety away, in my opinion, because I don't know. I'm crossing a runway. I've been given clearance to cross, and I see some lights at the other end of the runway. Are they taking off? Have they been told to wait for me to cross? I don't know because I didn't hear anything. And to me, this texting world is exactly that kind of a scenario where I see the communications between us and the air traffic controller, but I don't hear any of the other. I don't know any of the other communications going on.
I know exactly where you're coming from, Jeff, but I just don't think you're setting your imagination far enough into the future because, look, we've got the F-35. Those guys fly inside a virtual world inside their helmets. Wherever they look, they've got the world given to them by the sensors of the aircraft. Now, we don't need something quite that advanced, but if we wore visors that had every aircraft that we can currently detect, be it on TCAS or ADSB, etc., and as that aircraft was given a landing clearance, it changed to a certain color. You don't need to hear those instructions. You can just look down the end of the runway and you can see symbols, perhaps even overlying the actual aircraft that you could see, showing that aircraft and what he's going to do and if he's been cleared or not. And that just makes the world, all of a sudden you've got situational awareness coming out your backside. You don't know what to do with this. Brilliant. You can see the guys that are coming up to the taxiway, those that have been cleared, those that haven't. And that's the sort of level of technology I'm imagining in the future.
Well, I don't like it. Just kidding. Go ahead, Nate. What you were going to say and add something, AJ?
Oh, just one of the things that Nick had mentioned is kind of already starting. It's been happening a little bit in general aviation world, at least. There's a lot of the audio panels and even certain headset manufacturers are incorporating this in to where you can go in and rewind or play back the last 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds of the frequency. So you can like you said, you hear a control instruction. You're like, what did he say? Click the replay button, and you can replay that last few seconds or that last time frame. And I've a couple of our airplanes in the club have that on their audio panel, and it's been helpful. It takes a learning process to understand how to use it and what its capabilities and limitations are. But that is something that's already happening in general aviation world. I don't know if it's been incorporated much into the big airplanes yet, but it's going that way. The only other point I was going to make was we talked about, technology in aviation being decades behind. And I think Nick kind of covered this a little bit, but, that it takes a significant amount of time to get to some level of consistency or knowledge of the consistency of that technology, whatever it is, whether it's an engine parts or whether it's radio parts or whatever. You have to have a long term of testing to be able to see what possible problems can arise. So I'm kind of split. I agree with both sides of that. We do need to move forward, but how many times have we had a update come out for your phone that 5 seconds after the update comes out, oh, your phone's broken. Sorry, your update wasn't quite as good as we thought. We're going to fix it. Don't worry.
Not on Apple.
Not that big of a deal on your oh, okay. Yeah, throwing the shade on the Android. Okay. Yeah, my iPad's never had any issues with an update.
We got.
I mean, we're going here with air traffic control towers, aren't we? Where they'll have a completely artificial visual system, cameras, and integrated in that will be the radar and ADS-B, etc., so that you don't just see your airport, you get symbols overlaying all the aircraft that you can see through the cameras. If we could filter that information and give it to the pilots as well, then wow, all of a sudden all that SA is now possessed by everybody.
Yeah. I mean, you know me, I love technology too, and I'm all for any kind of technology that is a tool for us to enhance safety for sure. Absolutely. I just don't want us to get rid of some things to enable this advanced technology that I feel are still kind of important safety things and help me build my mental picture and all that kind of stuff. But I'm as long as it can be sturdy and trustworthy and
absolutely
99.99999 infinitum perfect or reliable. Sure. I can see. I see both sides as well. I think maybe the answer is a combination of the best of both of these technologies.
Well, hopefully we'll get some great commentary from the community and on what they feel about this.
Right. Yeah. So, dear listeners, as Liz said, we hope to get some of what your opinions are, what you think about all this, it'd be great.
I like iHall's comment here. Thank God the audio-only listeners don't know what's being texted in the comment section.
And
That's probably
right.
good.
It's
perfect
distracting.
Of what
your airplane
about.
would have crashed if you are reading their commentary in the live chat. Okay, so we're getting close to our hard out today. So we're going to probably just do one more piece of feedback or so, and then wrap it up. And we're going to talk to number 17. Jonathan from in Minneapolis, Minnesota, sent this. I saw the story from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution about Delta pilots donating wings to those coming up behind them. Ooh, watch out. I know you had long since transitioned to the left seat when the pandemic struck, but curious if you still had your FO, your first officer wings, and were able to donate them, or if you have any other interesting stories about your wings, whether FO or captain. Perhaps our old friend Captain Dana has an interesting story here he might share as well. Happy summer to all from, again, Jonathan in Minneapolis. So he gave us a link to a story from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. When COVID disrupted Delta's pilot wing supply, its pilots had an idea. And let's see, it says, starts off, when new pilots join Delta Airlines, the moment they receive their pilot wings to pin to their uniforms is a major milestone. The ceremony is one of the most important nights of their careers, said Laura Lee Kong, who manages the airline's career pathway program. It usually happens about 2 weeks into a new officer's training as they wrap up classroom learning in Atlanta and transition to 6 weeks of technical training in simulators across the country. But back in 2022, as air travel came roaring back after COVID-19 and airlines scrambled to hire new pilots, Delta had a problem. The overwhelmed post-pandemic supply chain could not keep up with their new pilot influx. Shipments of new wings from a Chinese supplier were stuck in shipping containers trying to get into U.S. ports. Pilots were coming here, she said, and we're like, we don't have wings for them. The company held one wing ceremony without actual wings to give out in 2022, she said. But once Delta's existing pilots found out about that, they quickly came up with their own solution on social media. Those who had already upgraded to captain could donate their old first officer wings to the new hires. Someone called Lee Kong, who was then working in employee engagement, and asked if she could make the idea a reality. So when we put it out there, if you want to donate your wings, send them to me. And the boxes started arriving. My desk was piled up with boxes from pilots that were just sending them in so that their fellow pilots would come in and have something to leave with. And the part that we weren't expecting is that they started writing notes. This is not something we asked for, she said. Anyway, passing of the torch. While some pilots donate their first officer wings to an unknown new pilot, others will specifically give their wings to someone they know. And then it goes on about some of these very touching stories, people giving their wings to others. And yeah, very cool, very cool. And I guess his question to me was that if I had some FO wings that I gave, and I do remember this happening. I was still actively flying at Delta when all this stuff was going on. And throughout my life changes in the last few years and like packing up things in boxes and such, I didn't know where I had my first officer wings. Okay, so Liz is asking, what's the difference? Why doesn't everybody wear the same wings? And I don't know, maybe some airlines that's the deal. But at Delta, the wings of a first officer are a little bit different. The captain's wings have a star on them, indicating that they are the captain. And
so this
first, so this what we're seeing on screen here, and what you're seeing on your podcast app, the image is those are captain's wings, and because it has a star.
The picture associated with the article is incorrect.
No, well,
they're talking about FO wings, right?
Yeah.
They are. Yeah, you're right. I mean, somehow they managed to screw it up again. Not only airplanes, but also wings. But anyway, it's nice in this case for me to have a visual depiction of what a captain's wings look like at Delta. It has a little star on the top of the widget, is what we call that triangular Delta shaped icon, which, by the way, when it was Delta before the merger with Northwest, it was a blue and red color combination for the widget. But then when we merged with Northwest, their color scheme was mostly that kind of bright red, and so they kind of made a combination of the livery or color schemes of the two airlines to try to unify everybody, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't send any FO wings in because I couldn't figure out where my FO wings were. So they're in a box somewhere, probably.
I didn't think you were an FO. I thought you came out of the womb as Captain Jeff.
Yeah, no. There was a point in my life, most of my life, that I was not a captain. I guess I ended up upgrading to captain back in 2000, or 99 or 2000. So only the last 20-something years of my career.
There had to have been a brief time in the Air Force where you were a captain. I
was a captain rank, and there's some jokes there. I mean, Captain Jeff is quite rank. But I started off as a second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and then captain. I was a captain for about half the time that I was in the U.S. Air Force. But yeah,
I think Captain Nick just reached back to
Captain
get
Nick
his
has
wings there to show us.
Yeah, Captain Nick has reached back behind him on the video, and he is getting his wings.
Now he's
yeah, we're
lost.
talking about you, Nick.
So, no, I wasn't. I was getting my logbook to see what year I got my command.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I think it was before 2000.
Anyway,
we've had, we don't have FO's wings. Everyone gets the same wings.
Oh, see, there we go.
And we've had about 4 different styles of wings since I joined the company. So, they change with every change of uniform. We've been through a number. So I don't think it would have worked here. And I still can't see when I became a captain, but there you go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so for me it was about the 12-year point is when I upgraded, and then the last 23 years, 23 years as captain.
Sort of a third of your way through.
So,
your career.
about a third of the way, and that changes depending on the current cycle and hiring process and number of people retiring and all that kind of stuff. I could have checked out as captain maybe a year and a half or so earlier if I was willing to fly the DC-9. But see, the DC-9 was an airplane I was never, ever, ever, ever going to fly. Of course, the irony is never, ever say never, because the airplane that I have the most hours logged in and the most time, as far as chronologically, is basically a DC-9, the variant. The MD-88, the MD-90, and the Boeing 717 are all basically DC-9s. So, that's the way it goes. But captain for me on the 727, the Mad Dog, and the Boeing 717, the Angry Dog, Angry Puppy. But
1997 for me.
There we go. We got it. 97. So a couple of years before I upgraded.
I was saying because I only had 3 years as a FO.
Oh, really. Wow. That was quick. You'll remember early on this show, a couple of years back when everything was really happening rapidly. I was still actively flying, actually, when this happened. And a new hire, in his first year with Delta, still on probation, was awarded a captain position on an airplane in I don't remember. I think New York City, which is like one of the most junior bases that we have, and everybody was like, "What? Like, what happened?" Like even the union said, "What? Wait a minute, that's not supposed to happen." But there's nothing preventing it. And that's what happened, and so it was an interesting thing. Most of us would, in private conversation, would say, "Man, I would never, hang mine out there like that, and still on probation. I mean, you don't have a lot of protections. If you do something, make a mistake or whatever, good luck to you." And a lot of us were concerned because, the decisions made and behaviors by somebody being a captain at your airline represent all of us. And we're going like, I don't know if I want somebody that just was hired and doesn't really have much experience with our company out there representing us as captains. And so there was a lot of that going on as well. So anyway,
okay,
that
guys,
was interesting.
Gotta wrap.
All right, time to wrap it up. We have so much great feedback, though, Liz.
I think we'll do an all feedback at the cottage. I think
let's do that. Okay, I was just going to suggest the same. When Liz and I are up at the cottage, hopefully all the hosts can join us, and we'll try to find a time where we can have as many as possible. But we'll kind of maybe plan on doing an all feedback episode when we're up at the cottage, and that'll be a lot of fun. And unless there's something that's really in the news that we really need to talk about, but let's plan on focusing on feedback on the next episode. So, That's a great idea, Liz. I'm glad that, amazing brains think alike, or whatever, geniuses think alike, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Wrap-up time, airlinepilotguy.com. That's our website. Lots of good stuff there to learn about the crew and the community and such. We are also on social media. We're going to do a quick wrap-up again. I don't know, who's turning the barrel here for, are we just going to flash it up here?
Mine.
Yeah.
Facebook.com/airline pilot guy if you're a Facebook fan. And if you're an ex-person, as opposed to an ex-person, at APG Crew.
Current person.
If you're on Instagram, instagram.com/APG Crew. And on the YouTubes, which is fun to go to, as well as watching us, you can just type in Airline Pilot Guy and you'll find us.
Yeah. And earlier we heard from Tim in Northern California, and
He's flown into Atlanta.
Yeah, well, he was in the shower with Hillel, I think. Hillel, you want to tell us about Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
Timing was not a little off on that. Okay, thanks. Come over here and tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and plain tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks a lot, Hillel.
Jeff?
What?
Do you still have some of that good shampoo from the last place?
No. Used it all. Sorry. Yeah, so our thanks to Hillel for...
Oh, wait, Nick's got something to show us here.
Nick, what is that you're holding up in front of your face? What kind of muff do you have in front of your mouth?
I was just going to hand it back to you in the studio, Jeff, but Liz spoiled that.
Aw.
I'm sorry.
So, explain to us what the people that are listening audio only.
I have an APG special interview mic for when I go on the road. Look at that.
Yeah, well, Tanya thinks you have a nice muff. All right.
Indeed, yes.
Yes, very nice.
A fluffy muff.
Ooh. Okay. And we'd also like to thank our producer, Liz, who does a phenomenal amount of work. Thank you so much for that. And we'd also like to continue to applaud for our wonderful live audience members and our live chat.
Come back, Dan. Come back, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, hopefully it was a good experience for you and they didn't scare you away, or we didn't scare you away. So cheers to everybody there. We love you. And also... I guess, looking forward to having you hear us again next week when we're recording up at the cottage. And
it'll probably be like the week after next. So we probably won't do a show this coming week because Jeff will be getting this show out and published, and then he'll be getting on the road. So it'll probably be the next week.
Yeah, we might be taking a week off this next week, and then we'll be back with you again the following week. So, yeah, good point. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wish you all clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Ta-ta for now.
See you.
See you next time, everybody.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the airline pilot guy.
Good day.
I used to be such a good pilot till I started APG. I opened doors for little old ladies. I helped them to their seats. Airline pilot guy, I fly America. Oh. 'cause I'm always flying. I just don't have the time. But I can land this old plane. I can land it just fine. Airline pilot guy, I fly